You only fail because you are doing something.
Just because they care. I grew up climbing trees. I can't even climb trees to save my life now. STEM is an acronym, and it stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics.
Hello, everyone. I thank you for joining us today in the Obehi Podcast. My name is Obehi Enwafo, and I'm your humble host here. I love to do this to talk about our story, to bring in guests here who share with us their experiences, what they do, most importantly, why they do what they do, because that is particularly important for us. In that there are a lot of things out there today, there are a lot of data and statistics out there, but we also believe that there is a need for us to be able to connect to the human being behind the brand, the human being behind the product that you're buying out there, which is why we have created the story to asset framework, helping businesses to be able to how do you say take away the curtain so that they can see the human being, because people want to connect to other people that look like them. That is what we are doing here. So if maybe, for example, you are a business owner, you're a founder, you are a service-based business owner, to be specific, reach out to us, because that is essentially what we do. We help you to be able to put a human face in your business, because people are looking for that face. They want to connect with you. And today, I have the honor of having with me Bamidele, who's going to be sharing with us why she does what she does. I repeat again, we want to connect to the human being. The human being is more important than the data and statistics. All right, dear Bamidele, thank you so much for being here. Could you tell the people who you are? You do a better job than me talking about yourself.
Thank you very much, Obehi. I really appreciate you bringing me onto your platform, as I know this is for visibility. And I have to commend you on what you have been doing. That visibility is speaking loud and clear. Just what you do in changing the narrative and just bringing positivity, like you said, unveiling the champions in us, unveiling the success in us, unveiling the excellence in us. So thank you very much for that. I am Bamidele Farinre, a chartered biomedical scientist. I'm an agile project manager, a mentor, educator, and an author. Let me even add to that, I am a STEM advocate. And I can tell you that my journey, as with most people, was not smooth sailing. My journey into this STEM career actually started with a setback. And it's a story I always like to tell because it's made me to who I am today. And what was that setback? That setback was when I was in my teenage years, those days where you still need a hand holding, where you're still trying to find your step-ins and, trying to navigate the world of work, career options. I failed. Yes. So I failed. I failed my A levels. And you can imagine that how did that happen? Somebody that's been doing well, from primary, secondary, had extra tuition. So what went wrong? But I mean, that I cannot explain to you. But yes, I failed. But the irony of the story is the fact that the person who was meant to be my lecturer, my mentor, the one that guides me, was actually the one, a woman at such, told me, Bami, you know what, there's no point. And I mean, I could understand why she said that because I had failed all the subjects. I did 4 A levels then, computer science, physics, chemistry, and biology, and I failed all. So I could understand what she's thinking. What are you doing here? Why are you even here? I don't think science is for you. And she said it out loud. I mean, that broke me. I didn't know who to go to. It's not like there was a career guide that you could go and say, oh, this is what happened. I mean, she was meant to be the person that would say that and be like, you know what, you've got other options. Let's do this, let's do that. But that wasn't the case. So that was my first blow. But I did, I went again. And then, I mean, the story is something different today that led me into the world of science, where I had the opportunity, of course, to do my A levels again, not the best grades that you would expect. And then, of course, college, and then going into university with not the subject that I wanted to do because I didn't get the grades that I wanted. But I think the universe had a different plan for me, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't have it any other way where I am today as a chartered biomedical science scientist. So before we even dive in, I just wanted to say that at times, our experience is what shaped us. And I know that everything that I do now is about opening doors, creating systems where people are able to thrive, where they are not told that you can't or you don't have the head for it, especially for those that are from the underserved communities.
Thank you so much for that, Bamidele. That is an interesting story. It's truly an interesting story. And I like to spend a few seconds there. You see, there are a lot of people in the world, like I was saying before. There are at least more than 5 billion people on the internet as we speak. That is more than 50% of the entire global population, which is to say that we are not looking just for people. We are not looking just for more products, just for more services. We are looking for the story, the human being behind the story. Because you can always replicate number, you can always replicate the statistics, but you can never replicate human being. Replicate our uniqueness, those things that have happened to us, those little setbacks like you're talking about, those failures, something that happened to us. But you see, you only fail because you are doing something. Those that are not doing anything cannot fail because they already failed, meaning they are on the ground. You can't fail if you are nothing. It is those who are climbing the mountain that they sometimes fail, maybe because they put their step where they put it in the wrong place, or they put it in the right place, but nature decided that it was the wrong place. So you call it failure, which is actually a temporal setback. It's not permanent setback.
That is
So
deep.
it is basically telling you that you are doing, so you are moving. So this is only you. This has happened to only you. Therefore, when you tell this story, also when somebody look at you telling this story, for the fact that you can tell this story means that you are an overcomer. You have overcome it.
Yes.
This is why we take the time to tell founders and people in the service-based businesses especially to take their story and use it. Because by the time you climb the stage and you are talking about your story like this, nobody can replicate you. Nobody can take that story because they haven't lived your life. They haven't made that experiences. They were not there. They weren't the people who were told that, you see, you failed this, so you cannot continue. But you say, I can continue. I can do it. So you are unique. So I want to thank you so much for that. I really want to.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now this is where I usually would like to start. We're still in the preliminary phase in the story. So you were born and you grew up in this place that you didn't make mention of. We are curious. We want to know this place because we want to connect the dots.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually love to tell that story too. So I grew up in Nigeria. And it's
You,
not
you
not
can
even
see
in
why
the
I'm sort of insisting on that, no?
oh yeah, no. You see, this is part of me. Actually, that made me. That cannot be separated, and it's a story that I love to tell. Yeah, because it is part of my being. So yes, I grew up in Nigeria. I was born in Nigeria, and then things change. Let me see. Just when I turned double digits, early teenage years, that was when I moved to the United Kingdom with my parents and my siblings. But my formative years in Nigeria was amazing. I remember when my parents said, "Oh, you're going, we're moving you, you're coming to meet us." I'm like, "What are they talking about?" And funny, it happened just when, in Nigeria, when you finish school and you're going for vacation. Yeah, I was just in SS1. for who knows what SS1 is, yeah. I just started. That was my first semester in SS1, and we had gone on a break. And they said they're moving me. I'm like, this is my life. This is what I know. Even though it wasn't like life was very smooth then, but I enjoyed it. The that was where I learned so much. Actually, that was where I developed that passion to be a pharmacist. I wanted to be a pharmacist because where I grew up in the community, the pharmacist is your first point of call. Before you even get to see the doctor, the pharmacist was a doctor for the people in the community. So I saw how they were saving lives to some extent because we know how the pharmacy world is, because sometimes, I mean, let's not go into that, but they were saving people. If anybody has any ailment, immediately there's one particular individual that serves a whole community. So that was how I was like, I want to be like this. I want to help people. I didn't even understand science to that extent like that. I didn't even know what STEM was all about. I didn't. But I had the passion. I was like, I'm going to be a pharmacist. I didn't even know like what sort of subject that you need to do to become a practicing pharmacist. But that built something in me. And also that community. It's just amazing. That is where, there's a saying where they say, it takes a village to raise a child. That was true for my community in Nigeria. That was true. Like the whole community, they'll be on your case. Your parents are not around, they are on your case. You do something wrong, they are on your case. And it was out of love because they're like, I cannot see another child failing. I cannot see another child doing the wrong thing that we cannot correct. Even sometimes you'll be like, they're in your face too much. Just because they care. I grew up climbing trees. I can't even climb trees to save my life now. You understand? Yes. You're plucking fruit from the floor. You don't even wash it. All this thing. That was what built our immunity. You could just get the fruit from the tree and eat it directly. You don't even think about washing it. I mean, something I beg to differ and be like, what are you talking about? It's just unclean. It's contaminated and things like that. It's when I moved here that I understand what contamination is all about. Made him I feel like, oh, but that was I really truly enjoyed it. And I really felt like it formed me. They built care, empathy,
Absolutely.
the yeah,
Absolutely. You
yeah.
see, now you're making somebody jealous now. Eh, of this growing up in Nigeria, which of course I did too. And again, I also want to take my hat out, take it off for Nigeria, for our value. Despite everything that is being said, that is going on today, despite all the crises that we have as a people,
Mhm.
I can still tell you, sister, that there is deep value
Yes,
that is still going around in Nigeria about the
absolutely.
Nigerian way of life. You see,
Yes.
I just returned from Nigeria now. A couple of last week actually, that was when I returned to Nigeria. Actually,
Now you're the one making me jealous.
okay, you see, the idea that maybe, for example, you are walking on the street, a young girl or a young boy will stop and say, "Good morning, sir." This is
Mm,
something that here in Europe, it just doesn't come natural.
mm-mm.
If you see a person that is younger than you, they probably just look the other way. You don't have any
Yeah.
business coming to. But there in Nigeria, despite all the challenges that we have, this value of, okay, that is an older person to me. I owe this individual respect. He's not coming
Mm,
to ask me, but I need to tell
mm-mm.
him, oh, good morning, sir. I think there is still this deep value in us, and it's going to help us in many ways. I'm talking about
Mm.
this play that we had as children growing up, which is actually why we are talking about story. But we are remembering where we are coming from. We are
Yes.
remembering what we are made of. We are made of value, of real substance that can
Mm,
help us to navigate this life. Let me
absolutely.
take some time to explain that. So a couple of years ago, I was talking about uh, what we are now calling soft skills. Soft skills like, okay, whether you are looking at critical thinking, looking at the ability to be able to network, to co-work and network with people, and all this thing that they don't usually teach you in school that much because they are really soft skills that, okay, maybe they believe that you are supposed to know that. But actually, in our society, in the Nigerian society, African
They
society that
teach
I
it.
grew up in, you were taught that, but not in
Yeah.
a classical situation where you are sitting in a class, somebody is lecturing you. The society teach you in a way that is baked into the activity that we do. Let me give you an instance for somebody that is probably looking at it as an abstract. So as a child, as a young boy growing up now, we involve in different kind of game, which could be like a football. We could go into the forest to hunt for little rodent. We could going there to hunt little cricket and shooting
Mm-hmm.
down birds in the air. Now,
Mm-hmm.
let's try to see what sense is there for us to learn looking at the world that we live in today. First of all, it talk about working together, which is being able to network. Because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, how am I able to? Because I never, in all the time that I grew up in my community, Uromi, which is south of Nigeria, you as an individual never just go into the forest to hunt for cricket or for birds. You usually go with other people. And when you go with other people, now you need to organize. You need to take the tools that you will need to be able to hunt the bird. Okay, talking about hunting the bird, let's zoom the lens only on that part. Because you have your small catapult, right? Which you, of course, have made with other young people like you. You know where to go and get the material to prepare the what we call a fool or the stone that you're going to put inside. Now, you sometimes maybe you don't know how to wrap your catapult, but you will learn because other people will teach you. When by the time you do it 2 or 3 times, you know it. That is a skills.
That's
Talking
right.
about skill. But there's also a part that has to do with co-working, with networking, negotiating. Because if you are not able to work with other boys like you are not going to be able to do that. So this soft skill, okay, before I get there, what about how do you manage to take down a little bird on top of a tree with just your catapult? How do you do that? It means you have learned how to aim. Aiming is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
You are not just shooting everywhere, because if you are shooting everywhere, you are not going to be able to take down the bird.
That's right.
Now, you are calculating, because the bird is not just there and say, hey, come and shoot me down. No, the bird is also calculating. It's trying to fly out. Sometimes
That's
you
right.
take the catapult and shoot. But before the bird run, it will fall into the stone that you have shot in the mid-air. Now you will hold the bird in your hand. What I'm always saying is that all this value, we can take it from the village and bring it to our metropolitan city that we are living in today. It's still going to help us, because it means we know that it's not just about us as single individual, but it's about us as collective, that we
That's
need to
right.
work together. You need to help me, I need to help you for us to be alive. So
That's
these are
right.
some of the values that I'm talking about today. This
Yes.
idea that sometimes we are sort of falling into in the West of this individualism, this extreme individualism where we are just left alone to wander in the wilderness. That is not
Yes.
how life was for us. We were working together. So I really want to thank you so much for sharing that.
I think another skill I had to that was survival.
Yes, you can say that again.
Survival. Yeah.
All right. Now I have a curiosity, Bamidele. You were saying at that time you didn't even know what STEM is. Okay, now I want to tell you that even now, some people don't even know what STEM is. What really is STEM? Explain it for us.
STEM is an acronym, and it stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That is what it stands for. And a lot of time, you are right. Some people do not know what STEM is. If I'm saying, and I'm like, oh, STEM, 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 even people within my community, my close community, they'll be like, what is she talking about? And then when you now spell it out, they'll be like, well, so what's that all about? So then I go on to explain, well, it's like a career path, put it that way, where science can be a standalone, then you have the technology aspect of it, and the engineering, and also the mathematics. But that is not even just to limit it, because when people hear of STEM as well, they might think automatically they just think science, or they think like technology. But it's not just it. It's an arm. So it's like a profession on its own. It's an industry. STEM is an industry. And you will be amazed that even in that industry, that is where you have even business people coming in to work in that STEM industry because of the skill set that they have, the knowledge, the experience that they have, qualifies them. When we're speaking about STEM, we're thinking people are coming in with transferable skills from wherever other industry that they're coming from. But STEM is the foundation for this other career path, or for this other subject, as you will put it, or industries.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate that. We appreciate that sharing that information. Now, we are looking at you waking up in the morning. You are going to a place or you are doing something. What do you spend your time on? Tell us about what your day look like in your regular day-to-day activity.
Well, I mean, no day for me is the same. Typical day while I was still in the lab. Let's start with that. Typical day will be wake up very early and make my way to work. We're saying maybe like by 8 a.m., 7:45, 8 a.m. I'm at work, and that's it. The day starts. And typical day in the lab is where we test patient samples. I'm trying to be as simple as possible. We test patient samples. Why are we testing patient samples? As we know, the population where we live in now, we call it aging population. The demographics that we have now, where personalized medicine is needed. So for me, in the lab, I help to save lives. How do I save lives? So let's take, for example, when you go to the doctors and they're trying to figure out what is wrong with you. Maybe you had a condition, you had an ailment, whatever it is. Even you go there with the symptoms that they don't know what it is. Then they'll say, oh, we're going to take a sample. The typical ones are the blood sample, urine, and your stool. And they will say, are we going to take this sample? We're sending it to the labs. And you're thinking to the labs. Most people, if they don't understand, they'll be like, what the labs, or we just want to know what is the issue. There are organisms that are responsible for infections, for diseases. So that is where my specialty is, finding out which organism it is. My specialty is virology and microbiology. So when they send the blood sample to the lab, I'm looking for viruses. Like, is there any virus in your sample that could potentially be the cause of your symptoms? And once I'm able to deliver that result, that helps the doctor to be able to treat you. They'll be able to make a plan for your management as to this is what you need, this is what we can do. It's just informative. It's providing information. That's what we call diagnostics, that will give them the right tools to be able to help you to nurture you back to health. So simply in that, and it's very busy. Imagine testing thousands. I remember when I started out in my career, we were doing things manually. Thank God for AI, as they say now, automation. Like, imagine being in a hospital. I started out in a tertiary hospital. They're moving into pediatrics. And pediatrics, we're treating like thousands of children per day. Yeah. And then you have one sample. There are different types of samples that we test. Imagine trying to do it manually. It takes ages. Ages. I remember when I started out, there's this thing we called electron microscopy. Microscopy is what we use to test the stool sample to see if there's any virus particles in there. Very tiny, something like, imagine doing one stool at a time. People are going to die. I mean, we still did it. It was just taking time. But now there's automation. So you can just imagine how amplified the thing is now. We can test hundreds of samples at a time, getting results within sometimes minutes or hours. So that is my life. And that is not just hands-on bench. Of course, there are other things with writing policies, training other people in the lab, just learning more about, what is hospital life all about for our children, because it's multidisciplinary. It's not just the lab people. We're talking about people that are frontline staff, like the nurses, the physiotherapists, and so the list goes on, the porters. You learn, like you said again, that networking, that working together, that team working is a collaboration. You don't work in silos when it comes to pathology, when it comes to the laboratory. You work together as a team for a common goal.
Thank you so much for that. That is really important. So a couple of years ago, when we were still in this big problem of the COVID-19, that was actually when these podcasts sort of began to get traction. And I did a lot of interview at the time. I interviewed a lot of people from different parts of the world, Nigeria, US, United Kingdom, Canada, and here in Europe. Because I thought that moment really required that we celebrate also the people that are in the front line, the mendees, who know that they are going to be in direct contact with the virus. Yet they didn't go home and say, okay, now I'm going to resign. I'm not going to work in the medical field anymore because now it's like maybe you have been a soldier all your life, but there has never been war. But now there is war. You can't just switch and say, okay, no, I'm a police. I'm not a longer a soldier. I mean, you call it duty call. So when duty call, these guys responded. So I remember that time, many medical experts that I interview, I will say, you guys need to be celebrated for what you are doing. Not because I'm talking to you, but because I know what is going on here. So out of this curiosity again, I'm sort of wondering, when you are among yourself as people working in the medicine, what kind of conversation do you have that sort of sustain you to carry on? Because like you were saying, it was difficult to do this manual work, no? Because now you are going to, I don't know how you are even going to be able to do that, testing thousands of people. And if the test doesn't stop, doesn't come on time, the doctor will not know how to start the treatment. Because I can tell you for sure that here, particularly when there is this very evidence-based life here in Europe, they can leave you to die if they don't know what to treat.
That's right.
Because what if they treat the wrong thing? Therefore, they go to wait until they get the result, then they start treatment. So tell me about how you sort of encourage yourself to go on, because I want to believe that it's not the simplest thing to do.
No, it isn't. But the beauty of it is that protocols, like you said, now is evidence-based. So you're not just working in the dark. You're not just doing it. These are established, tried and tested protocols that we use. We call it standard operating procedures within the lab. So that gives us the confidence that we know what we're doing. And the training, of course, the training that we get before you can even, I know what I went through. It's like you wanted to be a doctor. We know the series of education and training that they go through is similar for us as well. So you can't just hop in the lab and you want to start, you're going to be killing a lot of people. Even having said that, mistakes do happen, but they are fail-safe. We have fail-safe system in place to minimize this, like, how would you say, mistakes, or we call it near misses, something that could be there that could potentially mean like people lose their life. They make it that it's minimal, the probability of it happening. So that is a confidence that we have already that we are doing the right thing. But there are times when things don't go the way that we want. Typical ones, this is one we love. On a daily basis, especially the machines that we use, we speak to them. You'll be amazed that they have intelligence. I don't know how, but they actually have intelligence. Yeah. So we name them. Each of them, they have their names. And on the days that they're misbehaving, you literally go to them and speak like you're speaking to a friend. You know what? You need to behave today. We got so much samples to go through, like, come on, wake up, wait. We actually do that sometimes. Or like mysteriously they listen to us, but sometimes they'd be like, no, I'm having my day. And in those instances, of course, you have, because imagine in this day where, like, say, for example, in a day, you're meant to test like 3,000 or 4,000 odd samples, and the system that you're supposed to use now decides to fail. You still have to test those samples. So there's always like a backup machine, a backup method that we could use. And that is where sometimes the manual methods, they come into play. We don't forget them in some instances, especially if they're urgent. There's some sample. So there's prioritization for every sample. There's some samples that these are urgent. This is life-threatening. We need to do this now. The life of the patient depends on it. And there's some that we call routine. The routine one, maybe we've been consistently testing them, is just for monitoring purposes. But for those ones that are urgent, that's the priority. If we can't test them, that means we need to send them away. We will refer them to another facility that is able to, and hence come that collaboration again. And it's the same thing also within the technology space, because I'm an agile project manager, is the same thing. Working together collaboratively, working together for a common goal. The most important thing is that you have a minimum viable product, so a product that is usable, and that is the same with when it comes to saving patients. Because like you said, if we don't provide timely results, patients will die. And if they don't, I mean, that's the extreme when we say patients will die. It could lead to complications, within something that could have been treated if only you know that this is it. I'll give you a typical example. When people have rashes, there are different type of rashes. Some of them you could diagnose it just by looking at the rash. For example, sometimes you could easily tell when a rash is a chicken pox, or is just normal heat rash, or just measles type rash. But sometimes you're not able to tell because that's just a rash. The symptoms that the person is having, the reaction that they're having will confuse the doctors. And they're like, I'm not sure what this is. Then in that instance, of course, then they will go for further testing so that we're able to treat the patient accordingly.
Thank you so much for that. I like the way the thing is rounding. It is rounding up, as it were. No? We are going back to what we were saying before, the idea of working together. And of course, we need to do that because we are talking about saving life now. So it's compulsory. That is the right word I want to use there. It's compulsory that we must work together. But even when we look at the larger society, as it were, looking at the challenges that we face, looking at the world that we have, looking at the cities that we need to build, looking at the future that we are going, we need to work together. So I want to say again that those values that we had growing up is invaluable. It's fundamentally important that we learn how to collaborate. And this thing we're taught to run without ever using the word collaborate. We
That's
got the
right.
message.
That
All
is so
right.
right.
Because of time, just because of time. Those who want to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you? And what will be your final thought here to conclude this conversation? It really has been a bliss here.
It's amazing how the conversation turned out. I think the key message for me here is collaboration. Let's learn to work together. We're not built to do it alone, to walk the journey alone. Let's work together to break this seemingly ceiling that we have, because we're constantly breaking it anyway. But let's do it together. Because I know when I started out in my career, if I had somebody to mentor me, if I had somebody to say, oh, it's okay, you failed, of course, aside from my friend, but somebody that's a role model, that would have made a lot of difference. Many might say, oh, don't you have parents? Or no, because they don't know, have an understand a knowledge of the career that I'm going into. But somebody that has been there, done that, has worked the work, they're able to help me. So I say, let's not work in silos. Let's learn to champion each other. It's really important. That is where we can go further. There is enough room for everyone, all of us at the table. If the table is small, let's keep expanding it. Let's sit on each other's lap so that we can create that equitable world for ourselves where there is no competition. Yes, there is healthy competition, but the ones that when you compete, you're competing because oh, we can do it better. Let's do it this way. That is why I'll live with people. Me, Bamidele Farinre, you can see me on LinkedIn, Bamidele Farinre. I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Abamicious official. And also, I am a published author. So if you want to find my book, The Mentor's Journey from Learning to Leading, it's on Amazon and it's on Seller as well if you want to purchase. And I'll just end on this note. The Mentor's Journey is like, you could call it the chronicles of my journey from Nigeria to the West, where I am today. And it talks about mentorship because it's something that I'm so passionate about. We need somebody to give us the blueprint. It doesn't mean you have to follow it letter by letter, but you have a starting point. So thank you very much, Obehi, for having me today.
My sister, it's been a pleasure here, learning from you and see how you're doing your work and your story, most importantly, because people listen to this and they get value at the end of the day. You show them also how to do it because you have done it, you have tested it, no? You have seen what you call the temporal setback that some other person will say failure, but you know how to you know how to take the lesson from that and you move to the next level because now you can talk about it. Because if you have
Yes.
failed, you will not be here. You haven't
Mm-hmm.
failed. You have had
Mm-hmm.
some moments of temporal setback, but now you have overcome that. And now you can teach people. Your book is on Amazon. People can buy it. They can read it. They can connect to you. This is the power. You own your story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sister. I appreciate it. And for all of you that have listened to the end of this conversation, we say thank you. And we say subscribe to this channel. And make sure you also let us know what you take away from here. It is important for us. And like I say quite often, the message I've got into your doorstep. Whatever you do with that from that moment on, it's up to you, no longer on our part. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Bamidele.